Once upon a time, in a town much like ours, there was a middle school known for its strict rules and hallways that were colder than a winter morning. Among the students was a 13-year-old girl. Her name was Kayla. Now, Kayla was smart, real smart, and she had a sharp tongue that could cut deeper than any knife. She ruled the school hallways with her sarcasm and icy stares. Her cruelty, though, wasn't loud. It was surgical. A smirk at someone's torn shoes. A whispered lie that spread like wildfire. Notes passed, secrets exposed, friendships destroyed. She always picked her targets carefully, the quiet kids who wouldn't dare speak up. There was one boy in particular, a boy named Isaiah, who wore the same hoodie every day and stuttered when he was called on. He was the kind of boy who seemed like he belonged in a storybook, not in the harsh reality of their middle school. But Kayla found him and his differences amusing. One afternoon, she decided to make his life a misery during their science class. With exaggerated gestures and a mocking tone, she impersonated him in front of their classmates. The bell rang, signaling the end of class. But Isaiah didn't leave. He stayed seated, shoulders slumped, tears glistening in his eyes. He looked like a wounded animal, small and scared. And Kayla watched him, a cruel smile playing on her lips. A week turned into 2, and then one morning the principal stood before the entire school in an emergency assembly. He cleared his throat. His voice, usually booming and cheerful, was trembling. "I need to tell you all something very serious. Isaiah has been hospitalized after severe depression and nervous breakdown," he announced, his eyes scanning the sea of faces before him. "We don't know when or if he'll return to school." A heavy silence fell across the room. Some students gasped, some cried. Kayla sat frozen, her face pale as winter snow, unable to move. Later that day, she was called into the counselor's office. Her mother was already there. The counselor didn't yell, she didn't accuse. She just opened a folder with printed screenshots, texts, messages, notes. "These," she said, "are the things you said, Kayla. You didn't put a knife in his hands, but you made him believe he was worthless." Kayla broke down. Tears she didn't know she'd been holding back spilled out. Her mother was silent, her eyes red, probably from crying. Kayla was suspended, of course, but that wasn't the end. What came next was different. Her mother, who worked as a nurse, took her to volunteer 3 times a week at the local pediatric hospital. Not as punishment, but as healing. She helped clean rooms, restock supplies, and sit with kids who didn't have many visitors. There were days when the sterile smell of the hospital and the constant quiet made her want to run away, but Kayla stayed. One day she met a girl named Elsie who was very ill but kept her smile. They played cards, talked about books. Over time, Kayla began to laugh again, real laughter, the kind that comes from connection, not cruelty. A month later, Kayla wrote a letter to Isaiah. "I don't expect you to forgive me. What I did to you was terrible, but I want you to know that you helped me change. I was cruel because I was angry inside. I didn't understand how much pain I was causing, but now I do. I hope one day you can heal too. You deserve peace. You matter." She left the letter with the school counselor, who promised to pass it on when the time was right. A few months later, Isaiah returned to school. He had a different aura about him, a quiet strength that drew respect. They never became friends, but he nodded at her once in the hallway. That was enough. Sometimes we forget that words can wound as deeply as any action. We may think we're being clever or powerful when we hurt others, but the truth is, we're only hurting ourselves. Because when we choose cruelty, we diminish our own humanity. When we embrace kindness, we grow. So let's remember this. If we want to live in a world filled with warmth and understanding, we must start by being the warmth and understanding we wish to see. Let's be the generation that breaks the cycle of hate and builds a future of love. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.